A couple of weeks ago, we set out to learn a little bit more about the Japanese domestic market. We started with the Toyota Soarer, and determined that, as cool as it wasn't the car you put on your bedroom wall as a kid. Next, we drove the Nissan Skyline GTS. It's great to drive, but sadly overshadowed
by this. This is the reason nobody remembers the GTS. This is the GTR. This is Godzilla. And it's all done with Tokyo now. It's time for a new stomping ground.
In order to understand why the GTR is such a big deal even to this day, let's compare it to something that we got here in the States. This is my 2006 Evo 9 MR, and these two cars are actually very comparable. Both of them have pretty advanced all-wheel drive systems. Both of them have relatively small turbocharged engines making about 300 brake horsepower, and both of them weigh just a hair over 3,100 pounds. Both of them have been extremely successful in automotive racing, even to this day, and both of them are within 10 seconds of each other on the Nürburgring. So you might say, great, they're great competitors. But they weren't competitors. This car didn't exist until 17 years after the GTR came out. That's insane.
So it's no surprise then that the GTR was so unstoppable on the racetrack in the late 80s. In fact, in 1989, when it was in the Japanese Touring Car Championship, it won every race that it entered. And by 1993, it was the only car in its division.
A huge part of this car's success in racing came from its engine. This is Nissan's twin-turboed inline-6 RB26 engine, which was and still is considered a benchmark as far as performance engines. Nissan, because of the gentleman's agreement in Japan, said that the car only made 280 brake horsepower, when in reality, it made that at the wheels. But on the track, it was the all-wheel drive system that really shined. Cars tuned by Nismo, Gibson, Calsonic, and others were all making in excess of 600 horsepower, but it was thanks to Nissan's Atessa ETS part-time all-wheel drive system that they were actually able to put the power down better than any of their competitors.
This GTR has a Atessa all-wheel drive, and what that means is that it uses clutch packs to move power from the front and rear wheels. So only when the rear wheels begin to slip does the front actually engage. So when you're just driving around town, it's basically rear-wheel drive.
So one thing that most people never really get to talk about when they're talking about the GTR is the HICUS all-wheel steering system. And what that does is it literally rotates, it turns the back wheels sort of like it would turn the front wheels, but it only turns it like 1 degree. So it turns them in the opposite direction of where you're turning the front wheels, which seems strange, but what it's really doing is giving you kind of an artificial slip angle, which you would normally do by just breaking the traction on the rear tires loose. But instead of having to do that, it counteracts the understeer that you get in four-wheel drive cars with just kind of this artificial rotation, this artificial slip angle.
So what I really like about the GTR compared to the GTS is that it's not always in boost. With the GTS, it's an RB20, which means it uses a lot more turbo to get it moving around town. But with this, it's a 2.6, so it doesn't need the turbo as much just to get around.
So if there's a fault about this car, it's that it's too easy to drive. For a car that was killing supercars and putting down extremely fast times to the track and virtually unbeatable in motorsports in its time, you would just expect for the car to be a little bit less accommodating. But it does everything just like a normal car would. You just get in and you drive, and there's nothing particularly weird about it that, you know, is gonna make you have to treat it special. You just drive it like a normal car.
Buying a JDM car used to be a crapshoot. There was like a 50% chance that the car was being imported illegally, which led to a lot of cars getting crushed. But in recent years, more and more shops have been opening up with the capabilities to import Japanese cars legitimately. Driver Motorsports here in Central Virginia, for example, has supplied us with all 3 JDM cars we've driven on the channel so far. And they've gotten a really good reputation around here for doing everything by the book, so you don't have to live in fear of getting your prized possession impounded. So here we are, living in an age when you can just go down to the dealer and pick up an 80s Japanese supercar. But this is just the beginning. The JDM insanity is about to get real in the coming years, as newer and more advanced imports are becoming legal. But for right now, we're just content with the R32 GTR, the JDM car that started it all.